Questions. We have tons of them. What if some of those questions can be answered with a simple email? Now is that time, and welcome to Chat with Charlie. Host Stephanie Lynn is a certified spiritual life coach and psychic medium. She will work together with Spirit to answer both your submitted and live questions. Not only will Stephanie be providing you with insight, but also interviews with amazing guests. Now, your host of Chat with Charlie, Stephanie Lynn.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to WLTK-DB Let's Talk Radio. We're joining the Chat with Charlie show. Good morning, everybody. I see you all tuning in, Diana and Courtney. And Courtney, I'm sorry if that song sounded like me singing, because that would never be a good experience. In fact, one of my kiddos the other day said, "Mom, can you please not sing that song? You're just not good at it." So straight from the mouths of kiddos, right? Good morning, Keith and Tina. Thank you all so much for tuning in today. I'm really excited about today's guest, Kim Coots. She is a spiritual healer. She's a psychic medium. But what I really love about Kim, and I feel like what is going to resonate, thank you, Facebook user, yes, all my morning glory, is where she came from and how she came into her spiritual awakening. You know, we always, sorry, Diana, we do not really do readings on this show, not very often. But if you tune into WLTK-DB, there's lots of shows that do readings, and you could hop into one of those and they would be great and would want to help you out. But Kim really came from a skeptical mind, which I always appreciate, because that's really where I operate. And we've talked about that before, but really went through, coming from that skeptical mind, coming from the business world, facing tragedy that really led her to wanting to develop and understand and connect with spirit. And I think that's where you guys are going to find as much appreciation for Kim as I have. So please help me welcome Kim to the show. Good morning.
Hello.
How are you today?
I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much.
I'm so excited to have you here too, because I found your story just so inspiring. And, like I was just telling the viewers, I really appreciate coming from that skeptical side, that real life experience side that spirit uses to draw us in. And I think, good morning, Jackie, that's really something that's powerful when it happens that way. But before we get into all that, because there's so much I want the viewers to know about you, can you talk to us a little bit about who you were before all the spiritual awakening kind of came into play?
Yeah, so I began my business career at a very young age. At age 18, I started working for a brand new company that hit the Inc. 500, fastest growing company in Inc. 500.
Wow.
And in a short amount of time. So my business career just took off. And before I knew it, in my mid-20s, I was a corporate executive working for a $6 billion global company, traveling all over, and really enjoyed my career.
Yeah.
But felt like there was still something more for me to do in life, but I wasn't sure what it was. I was in my 20s, so I was kind of just enjoying my life and trying to balance being a single mom. I was a single mom at the time, working at this corporate career and trying to find that balance. So what I found, though, is even though I had reached this level of success that a lot of people strive for, I still didn't feel fulfilled. And I was kind of at a point in my life where I was seeking that.
Yes.
But that's really my background, is jumping right into the business world.
Well, and I like how you bring up, because I feel like so many people, and, I'm a spiritual life coach too. And so a lot of my clients that I talk to have that, where we're looking at where we want to be in our journey, but we feel like something's missing. For some people, they strive for that success. And then it's like, well, they get to that success, and then there's the stress, there's all those demands, and they realize that's not really what they're missing. And I think that's an important point, is to reevaluate why we feel like something's missing. What do we feel like we're missing on our journey? How did you come to connect what was missing for you with where you were in your journey? How was that, I guess, spiritual awakening?
It's been a long journey for me. It
Right.
wasn't like something that, just transformed for me overnight. But
Yeah.
really what initiated that was, as a busy corporate executive, I was very burnt out. I was traveling all the time, working with some of the biggest brands in the world, being a single mom, trying to balance all that. And I would get massages from time to time. And it was a particular massage I was getting where I just felt, because my mind was always going.
Absolutely.
Always, that monkey mind. And
Yes.
In this massage, for some reason, I just felt like my mind was quiet.
Right.
And it felt so good. It was just like nothing was there.
Yeah.
And I had this kind of like, to me at the time, it was a very weird out of body experience where I felt like I was kind of floating in space and heard this really beautiful voice speaking to me about how we're all connected. And I can't remember the exact wording because it was so long.
It gives me
ago.
goosebumps though. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like 2002 when this happened. And I just remember when the massage was over, I was so amazed at this experience. Like, the feeling of it was so visceral and words can't describe it.
Right.
But it led me to joining massage therapy school, because I'm like, what did this massage do to me? So I attributed it to massage.
Right.
So I secretly, while doing this corporate career, took massage therapy school and became a licensed therapist to explore this. And that kind of opened the doorway for me, because it led to finding Reiki and energy healing. And back in the early 2000s, I think it was becoming more popular.
Right.
But it was still fairly new then. So I became a Reiki master teacher, and that kind of just kept developing for me. And I felt for myself, it was so empowering and helped me overcome some of that corporate burnout. But I started practicing on other people and really felt this calling to move into spiritual healing.
Absolutely. And, I always laugh because so many people that I talk to, it starts with like the Reiki. I always say it's like the gateway spiritual opening is, it was the same for me. I went to an event, a metaphysical event, because I was kind of curious and I had my own stuff going on spiritually, but I went to a Reiki session, and that's really, again, what pivoted me. And it's interesting how I hear that kind of reiterated with either the massage or the Reiki pivoting people into that, because I think it's more easy to wrap our minds around, helping, relax people and move the energy. But I know in your bio, you talk about, unexpected losses and going through tragedy. And I wonder how or where that fell in that timeline of that massage. Was that spiritual awakening before you were dealing with your grief, and it kind of stepping stones into the more development of your spirituality?
Yeah, back in the early 2000s when that spiritual awakening happened, at that time, I'm an astrologist now too. So at that time, there was some big things going on in my birth chart. But in my personal life, I was just recovering from my divorce from my first husband. As well. So that was kind of the loss there. And that was really hard on my daughter.
Yes.
So that was a big thing. My loss or grief at that time would be that big change. And also for her.
Absolutely.
At the time. So that was still grieving, but not at the level that I got to in my life of losses. I feel like my life has been a series of loss, and that's a part of my journey and a part of why I help people the way I do now. But that at that time, that was really the thing happening in my personal life.
The emotional moment.
Mm-hmm.
With that, and looking back, and I don't want to get, I don't really want to focus too much on your personal tragedies, because I think that can overshadow the good that you have developed moving forward. But I know you do talk about, you were skeptical of after death communication, and after, you experienced those losses, that really brought you into studying evidential mediumship and looking for proof. How do you feel? And I wonder what role that played in you becoming a person that does grief groups and grief support. How did that play that role into you getting healthy, but also developing your abilities and connection with spirit?
Yeah, that's interesting, because in 2017, I was a president of a nationwide company, and my stress level just got so high. I just one day gave them a 30-day notice and said, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I just can't do this anymore. And I ended up becoming a certified grief coach, and I had no idea why. I just really felt called to do this. Yeah. And I took 4 months off of doing anything and just studied to become a certified grief coach. And at the end of that, it was like, I really feel called to this, but I haven't experienced loss, like a personal loss of someone dying. And I don't feel like I can help people because I can't understand. Right. So I just kind of set it aside and said, I don't know why I felt called to be a certified grief coach, but I did it, and, I'm not sure why. Right. Well, in 2020, my only child died unexpectedly from a fentanyl overdose. Okay. A month after her 26th birthday. And then 3 weeks later, my mother died unexpectedly. So I had two very significant losses in a short amount of time. And at that point, even though I've been a spiritual healer and very into the spiritual, something always made me feel uncomfortable about communicating with those who have transitioned. I don't know why. It could be just the only reason, or the only interaction I've had around a medium in the past was through Hollywood movies or what's on TV. Yeah. And I just had this uncomfortableness about it. Right. So I never ventured into that, or, when I would get invited to events or whatever, if it was around me, I'd be like, no, that's not my thing. I'm not interested in that. Yeah. And right before my daughter transitioned, I took astrology certification, and my teacher said, you're a medium. And I said, no, I'm not, because she was doing a reading for me, and she said, you're a medium. And I'm like, no, I'm not interested in that at all. Right. A month later, my daughter transitioned. And at the time, my astrology teacher had said, well, if you decide you want to explore that, I'm going to give you the name of a teacher that teaches evidential mediumship. Right. And I just said, thank you, I appreciate it, don't need it. And then when my daughter transitioned, although I was very skeptical about it, I really wanted to have this connection with her, and I started receiving signs from her right away. Wow. That I couldn't deny. Yeah. And my skepticism is actually what led me to even exploring evidential mediumship. Right. So I'm grateful for it, because if I would have just said, I believe these are signs from her, and I believe in that, I may have never pursued it. Yes. And at the same time, and this is something people might relate to if they're skeptical about getting a reading, is probably my biggest fear is, what if I try to connect with her and I can't, and I have to live with that? Yes. I love that. That's so true, because I've experienced that with people that sit down who, I try to explain to people, I'm just a conduit. We can ask somebody to come in, and, and there are times where people want to hear from someone specifically, and that's not the message that they need to hear at that time sometimes. And I understand that. That's just powerful to me, because I've never heard it put that way. So I appreciate that. Yeah, I had to sit with it and say, because I'm, to be honest with you, I didn't know that I was going to survive this. Yeah, absolutely. And 2 months before my daughter transitioned, my grandmother from the other side visited me, and I physically felt and saw her presence when she said that death would be coming to the family. And this was when COVID was just starting. So I thought, maybe I'm just freaking out about it. But I mentioned it to my husband, and I said, I won't survive if it's Kira, my daughter. Right. So, that feeling of, can I survive this loss? And the fear of trying and not connecting but also wrestling with never knowing if I don't try.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like, that was.
And what would you tell people, in that position, like in that position of how you were feeling that, what would you tell somebody that was having those same doubts or those same fears?
What I would say in my experience with it is when I would mention it to people, I would often get the blank stare, like, I don't know what to say to you, or you're weird or whatever.
Right.
Don't worry about what other people think.
Yes.
And I would also say use discernment, because when I started exploring after-death communication and mediumship and discovering what evidential mediumship even was, there's so many beliefs and thoughts out there that it's confusing. Yes. And you really have to use your own discernment.
Yes.
So my skepticism led me to begin this journey, but my discernment helped me to look at what resonated with me.
I like that.
And that's what I would invite people.
Absolutely. And, and I tell people too, no matter if you're getting your plumbing fixed or your electrical, do your research, and it's the same. Make sure somebody resonates with you. Make sure that it feels right, because just like there's bad plumbers, there's maybe people that you should reconsider sitting down with. And I feel like if people don't make sure it resonates with them, it can cause more hurt and more grief than actual helping and healing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and some of the books that you can read or things, online, everyone's got different beliefs about things. Absolutely. And some things can be pretty hurtful for people who are grieving, the way that they're said. So just really using discernment and not taking in everything, but sitting with it and saying, does this resonate with me?
Right. Yeah. No, I like that. And one thing I'm curious about. So as you started, studying and looking into the evidential mediumship, at what point did you move into acceptance? Because it's one thing, right, to be skeptical and to be looking at this stuff, and then to move from that into acceptance is a big process. And it's a huge step that I don't think, sometimes I think, people think that comes right away and it's just there because you're looking into it. But to me, it's a development. So how did you develop that acceptance with spirit, with your own abilities?
Well, there was many things. It wasn't just one, but the first thing was the signs from my daughter, which in my heart I knew were from her, but my mind was questioning whether I was just making it up because I was desperate.
Yes.
And she was very persistent with me and sending signs.
I love it.
And then as I started researching after-death communication, reading books, there's a book I read, I think it's Proof of Heaven, by a neurosurgeon who had a near-death experience. So just even looking at different people who've had these types of experiences, and for a doctor to publish a book about it was helpful for me. And then as I started studying evidential mediumship, because I didn't even know what that was, but when I heard evidential mediumship, and it's about bringing proof and validating evidence and information forward that the medium could not have known, I was like, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
Yes.
I wanted some kind of proof. So all of these signs from my daughter, starting to do evidential mediumship training, and I had to do readings for other people, which when I started training, I'm like, I'm not doing readings for people. I just want to have a connection with my daughter.
I understand. I said the same thing. Yeah. And I also said I would never do this. So spirit kind of keeps nudging and nudging until they put us in that spot that we need to be in.
Yeah. So I did readings because it was part of the training.
Yes.
And what I found was I could connect with the loved ones of people from, loved ones on the other side for people I was doing readings for, and bringing forward evidence and messages that were so healing.
Wow.
And that to me, because I'm a spiritual healer anyway,
right.
I realized how healing that was. And then also getting readings from mediums myself and the healing that came from that, and also the validation.
Yeah, I love that. I've often said, I feel like as, light workers or whatever you want to refer to it, we kind of become those counselors between the other side of the veil and spirits and the people that are still here. It just, you can offer so much healing and so much insight to people. And kind of like you, I sat and I was like, I ignored my abilities for years. And it got to that point of understanding for me, it was advocating for kids, but then looking at, okay, I can really help somebody. So by me ignoring my abilities, I'm taking away this blessing of somebody else healing. And so I feel that with you, it's that once you realized the blessings that you could help and the healings that you could help in working with spirits really outweigh our own fears.
Yeah, and I, at the beginning, didn't really think of evidential mediumship reading as healing, as a healing mechanism. I felt it was more of communication.
Yes.
But when I saw how healing that was, and I felt it personally, being on both sides of it, personally experiencing it and also professionally helping others, it's profound. Although I use, multiple tools in my journey with grief, receiving an evidential reading from someone is probably at the top of my list for most helpful.
Absolutely. And we're going to go to a station break, but when we come back, I'd really like to look at, because there's such a stigma, around mental health, whether it's getting support with grief, acknowledging any of our vulnerabilities. And grief is a big vulnerability for people. And not every avenue works for everybody. And so I'd like to talk about some of those avenues that you use and some of those avenues that you offer in your grief counseling with people, because I think it's important. Sometimes we get so lost in our grief and we really enter dark phases. And if anybody out there is going through that, I'd like to give them resources to help pull them back. So
absolutely.
We'll see you all in just a moment.
No matter the questions, Ellie Weisensell can help you find the answers. Ellie is a gifted intuitive and a natural energy healer, which she applies using the body code and emotion code healing systems, among others, to help you achieve balance for your best results. Are you looking for more clarity about which direction to follow with your life, health, or career? Let Ellie guide you. As a psychic, Ellie can provide clarity to the path you are on, so you may use your free will to change the direction of your life. Are you wanting to communicate with a loved one who's passed? As a certified psychic medium, Ellie Weisensell can connect you with your loved ones on the other side to facilitate healing or offer closure. To schedule your appointment with Ellie, look her up on Facebook at Ellie Weisensell Psychic Medium or email her at ellieweisensell@gmail.com. That's Ellie Weisensell, Weisensell.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's about 23 past the hour, and you are listening on WLTK-DB Let's Talk Radio to Chat with Charlie. I am your host, Stephanie Lynn, and today I am joined by the amazing Kim Coots. If you're just tuning in, I hope you will tune back in and catch the first half of the show. Kim walked away from the corporate world and is now a master medium, a master energy medicine practitioner. You're also certified Reiki master teacher. You're an astrologist and a grief coach. I mean, it's just amazing. And so please listen to her story, her spiritual awakening. But now we're going to talk about the vulnerabilities of grief and how we can pull ourselves out of that. I think, I look at my own experiences in my family, and when somebody transitions, a lot of times people close up. We don't want to talk about that person anymore because it hurts us, because we're still here, and we get trapped in that grief and we lose pieces of ourselves. How can we help people through that, Kim? How do you, as a grief coach, help people through that darkness?
Well, I first would like to say personally, when my daughter transitioned and I was in that space myself, I remember laying on the floor of my bedroom closet saying, if I didn't know what I know, I wouldn't survive this.
Yes.
But I didn't know I wasn't consciously thinking about what I know. Throughout all of my spiritual healing training and practices, my belief is that we are a soul here having a human experience, and our soul divinely designs what our experience, not to every detail, but we come here knowing what we want to learn, create, and experience while we're here. And we are from spirit, and we go home to spirit. So our time here is temporary. So in remembering that, or staying in that remembrance of that, for me, that helped me to say, first, I want to honor my soul for this experience that I'm going through, but also to honor my daughter's soul. That, my ego, my mind wanted to make it, she transitioned from a accidental fentanyl overdose.
Right.
So my mind wanted to say, if I would have been a better mother, if I would have done this, if I would have done that.
Absolutely. Living
in the land of regrets. I wasn't honoring her soul for what she came here to experience, and I wasn't honoring mine. So to me, that is one of the foundational pieces for me to go on this journey with grief that I don't want to be on. I mean, I don't know anybody who wants to be on the journey with grief.
No. And I think that's, very important, because I think a lot of times when people lose somebody to overdoses or things that we look at as being more controllable, people who choose to transition, that we do put so much of that blame, which compounds our grief of, well, if I would have checked in with this person, they might not have committed suicide. If I would have done this better, maybe they would have felt supported. And, it's hard, but I like how you say you have to separate that, right? From our ego, from taking on other people's choices. Does that make sense?
It does. And in the readings that I have done and do, where the loved one that comes through is from a drug overdose or from a suicide, where they are and what messages they share and how they're feeling is they're in such a beautiful place. I think that was part of my fear too, is she okay? Did she make it to the other side? All of those questions of wondering, is my loved one okay?
Yeah.
And having those connections with those who've transitioned that way, and feeling the love and knowing that they're okay, they're happy, this was part of their journey, has been so healing for me and for the people that I read for. So I think knowing that is helpful.
It is. And I know, coming from a religious background growing up, and I have a lot of people that come to me as clients, and that's really their biggest concern. Are they okay? Especially if they chose to transition. Are they stuck somewhere? Did they get to cross over? And there's that fear, like you said, in those questions, because it's, to know somebody chose to transition is bad enough, but then to worry what kind of state they're in on the other side. And I think, and I'm not, knocking any religions, but there's a lot of boxes in religion, if that makes sense at times, that I think perpetuate this fear of people not being okay on the other side.
Yeah. And this is one of the things I mentioned earlier about, you can read all these different beliefs about what happens, and that's where you have to use your discernment.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you are looking for options, there's traditional grief support options, but being a grief counselor, I think it's getting more widely accepted as more mainstream, but it wasn't always seen that way. How do you work in conjunction with your abilities and spirits, and just as a grief coach, to help people process through what they're dealing with?
Well, when I was first starting out on my journey with grief, I felt like if I could just have a connection with my daughter, I can get through this. Yes. And then when I did have that connection with her, I found that I still really struggled with the darkness of grief.
Yes. Yeah.
And even though I had become a grief coach years before that, when I didn't know why, I was still really struggling. And finally, I said, I'm going to try all these other methods. I joined a grief group. My doctor wanted me to go on antidepressants, which I tried, and it actually made me feel worse. I couldn't take it. tried talking to a psychologist, and either of those things didn't work for me or they made me feel worse.
Right.
So, and then this is probably a common experience that people can relate to. A lot of the relationships I had disappeared.
Yeah.
When I started grieving.
Yes.
The friends I thought would be there weren't, or family members weren't. So it felt very lonely.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm a spiritual healer. What would I do if I were helping a client? And I looked back on all of these spiritual healing techniques that I've used for corporate burnout or anxiety and depression in the past.
Yes.
And I said, I'm gonna try this. So I started working with a shaman, because I'm a shamanic healing practitioner.
I love it.
Started working with an energy medicine practitioner, and I do that as well. I worked with an astrologist to help understand my birth chart better, to find purpose in my life. So I use all the tools that I'm certified in, but I thought I could do it myself. But grief isn't a journey to do alone. It really isn't.
No.
And I also, what I realized is society doesn't know how to support the grieving, but the spirit world does.
Absolutely.
So through people, practitioners here on earth, and through working with spirit,
right,
it gives me the tools to work through my grief.
Yeah. I like that, how you talk about here, and you're so right. We don't know how to, because we can't help, we can't prevent, we're all going to transition. We can't prevent that loss. And I've had similar experiences where you're dealing with a loss and it does feel lonely because people don't know how to help, right? We just don't know how to sit with somebody else's pain. If you could give any advice to somebody who's maybe looking to being a friend, or how to be a friend to somebody that is dealing with grief and dealing with loss right now, what would you tell them so that they feel empowered to help and don't feel that need to pull away?
What I would say is, I think, for me, being on the end of being that friend for someone who's grieving, you feel like, I don't know what to do, or I don't know what to say. And there's nothing you can do or say, to be honest. It's really just saying, I'm here for you. If you want me to just sit with you, if whatever you need, because for a person who's grieving, they often don't know what they need. And it's a roller coaster.
It is.
But just to know someone is there and just to hold space for them, to understand if they don't want to participate in social activities that they used to, because they just can't at the moment, and to be okay with that.
I like that.
And just ask them, what can I do to support you? I'm here for you, just to sit with you if you just want to sit.
Yeah, I like that. I think we feel that to help, we have to be actively doing, right? We have to actively, and I think that's sometimes why people end up with 30 casseroles in their refrigerator, because we feel like we have to do. But there is so much to be said. And even with people that are not dealing with grief, but just to sit and be present. Sometimes you don't even have to say anything. Just sit and be present.
Also being mindful of those dates that are going to be challenging, whether it's the transition date of their loved one, a birth date, holidays, and just checking in on them to say, hey, I'm here for you. Just want you to know, if I can do anything, let me know.
Absolutely. And if anybody, any of you that are, dealing with grief, we're sharing Kim's information. You can find her, online, reach out, pass it on to somebody that might need extra support. But we got about 15 minutes. And before I let Kim go, I really want to talk about the other things, right? The lighter side of your spiritual connection and things you do, because grief is heavy. And this has been a heavy show, a heavy topic, but I want to bring it to a little bit lighter. And there's so much that you do, Kim. Like you just are like, you encompass so much with spirit. What of all the things in how you work with spirit would you say is maybe, I don't want to say like your favorite, but that you feel most connected to?
Well, it's hard. That'd be like saying, what's your favorite child?
Right. Yep. Yes, exactly.
I love all the things that I do. And what I would say that I love about it most is the impact that each each offering has for people and what healing they get from it. That's really what it is. So whoever I'm working with and whatever is called for that in the moment, whether it's a evidential mediumship reading, an astrology reading, a shamanic healing session, a grief coaching session, a personal retreat, whatever it is, on the other side of that, when they're done with that session, where they are at and the medicine that they receive from it is the most rewarding thing.
Do you find, because I've had this happen with me, where maybe you have somebody come in and they want to sit down and do their chart, but maybe in doing that, you find other of your practices bleed in, whether it's, you realize they need energy healing, or do you have a lot of that crossover within your focuses?
I do. It's really spirit led. So we intend to do one thing, other things might come out of that, or it might be a fusion of things that happen during a session. So it's really spirit led, and whatever that person needs at the time. Even though we might have an intention for, say, if I'm doing an astrology reading, I might have a loved one come in with a message, or some energy work might come into it.
That's great. And when I first got more open with my abilities and started offering services, I was very like, okay, I'll offer medium readings. Okay, I'll offer psychic readings. But I didn't realize how much, I do now, everything kind of blends together. It's, it's just, and I tend to do that too, be more spirit led and say, all right, I know this is what you want, but let's talk about this and see how you feel about this, because I feel like this is what we need to address right now. I'm interested in your shamanic journey, and I know I've kind of gone back. I started my shamanic journey, and I kind of go back and forth with it. That can be overwhelming. Like, is it just me, or can shamanic journeys really just be overwhelming?
Well, when I started shamanic training back in 2012, that was when I was going through a whole corporate burnout thing. It was so impactful for me, but like you said, I got to a point where I had to, it invited me to make changes in my life I wasn't ready to make. I completely abandoned it. I completely abandoned all of my spiritual healing. And it actually happened when a corporate client found my spiritual healing website, because I was in the closet.
I get that. Yeah.
And I
just started using my real first name, so I get that.
So I shut everything down. But then I got really, really, I got sick, physically sick, because I abandoned all my spiritual practices.
Right.
But going back into the shamanic healing through my grief has been so profound, and it's a practice I work with people on now, because it's really about connecting with the soul and treating from the soul level.
It is.
And we were talking about traditional grief methods. To me, it's very focused on the mind and the ego.
Yes.
Where spiritual healing or shamanic healing is focused more on a soul level. That does impact the mental level. But yeah, it is. It's calling you to connect with your soul, and that's not easy for the ego. But my ego wanted to punch my soul in the face and say, "Why would you want to experience this?"
Right. And I like how you said you abandoned it because you were called to make changes that you weren't ready for, and that was very impactful for me. So point received, spirit, because it's that, sometimes you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and I get that. But it was, and for me, with my shamanic journey, I just, that connection, like you're saying, you're being called more to connect with spirit. And it was, I just, the energy could be overwhelming, if that makes sense. The energy, and then those emotions, right? Because a lot of us want to keep things boxed up, and we know it's there, but we don't want to look at it. And you can't go through your shamanic journey with boxes. So that's...
Yeah, it's the invitation to step out of that box. But I will say that what I have found is the more we resist that, the more we have the more that we receive things in life to help us to do that, because that's what we're meant to do.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't have to be overwhelming. I think it's more of that awareness of when I'm uncomfortable, it's a sign that I'm shifting out of my ego and into my soul. And it is not a comfortable journey. I don't know anybody who's got a comfortable journey.
No. And that's, you know, and my spirit guides too, they keep saying like, it doesn't have to be this hard. And, you know, we were talking before the show and you were saying about it was like digging your heels into the sand. And I still go through points like that where I'm like, yeah, but no, like, let's just slow this train down, spirits. And they don't always listen. And they're right, of course, but we still tend to resist sometimes.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, Kim, please tell everybody where they can find you and how to get in touch with you.
My website is kimcoots.com, and my social media handle is @KimCootsMedium. And, you know, you can visit there and learn about what I do and how I help people. I have free resources on there, blogs that might be helpful as well.
Yeah. And I would love to have you come back at some point and talk about astrology, because that's one that I really don't know a lot, but I'm so interested in astrology. And so we will definitely look into getting you back in, you know, in a couple months and have you talk about that, because I think that's just fascinating. It's so fascinating.
I would love that.
That would be great. Thank you so much, Kim, for joining us today. I hope everybody that is on here, if you're struggling with grief, if you're looking for a reading, I mean, Kim does so much. So please hop over to her website, check her out, or, you know, sometimes just passing on that word to a friend that needs the extra support makes a difference. Do not get stuck in your own vulnerability. We're all here to support. And so thank you, Kim. And when we come back from our break, I will be telling you all what's in the box that you guys were working on your intuition with. Maybe pull a card for inspiration and tell you what's coming up on the show in the weeks ahead. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Everybody, welcome back to Chat with Charlie on WLTK-DB Let's Talk Radio. If you are just tuning in, it is 43 past the hour, and you missed an amazing conversation with Kim Coots. A little bit heavy because it's talking about getting support through that grief was really our main focus, and Kim's spiritual journey through her own grief into her connection with spirit. But she's fantastic, and she's not just a grief counselor. You know, she's a master medium, she's a master energy healer, she does astrology, Reiki master teacher, spiritual healer, shamanism. Just seriously, there's no reason not to check out Kim. So I hope you will do that. And I hope to have her back on in a couple of weeks to talk about astrology, because that interests me. And it's something I should probably pay attention to, but I don't. I'm a horrible psychic medium, guys. I can't tell you if anything is in retrograde, what's going on in the stars, so it'd be very interesting. All right, a couple of things coming up. Next week is a station break. I will not be here. Our producer, he's going to go have some fun. We're going to let him do that. So be sure to come back in 2 weeks when we will be returning with Ellie and In the Mix. And we have some fantastic things to talk about, things that are coming up in the news, everything from things eating deer carcasses on cameras to the recent UFO sightings and 911 call that I bet most of you that are here have heard about. So lots of topics to discuss. Tune in. It's going to be an interesting and a fast-paced show because there's quite a few articles that we want to cover. So I hope you will be here. July. Let's talk about July, guys. I won't be here. Not here, not on Chat with Charlie. Just for a month. You guys are going to have to make it through without me, but you can tune into all the other fantastic shows, and I will still be hopping on the universe. But I'm coming back on a new time and a new day. So Tuesday mornings, you guys will no longer find me. Starting in August, I will be at 6 p.m. on Wednesday evenings. So I hope that you guys will all, at least if you can't make that showtime, find me on Podbean or wherever you download and keep following the show. And then when we come back in August, I'm lining up some really fun guests. Debbie Romero of Transcend with Debbie will be joining me for that first episode on the 2nd, coming back at the new day and time, which again is Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I'm really excited. If you guys have ever tuned into, you guys know Mike and Jen from No Agenda. They go live. Debbie has been on their go lives. I had the pleasure of meeting her when I was on a go live with Mike and Jen. She's fantastic. Her energy is through the roof. And I've had so many requests to have her here. Finally got her booked. So make sure you guys are tuning in for that. All right. So let's talk about the box. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate all the emails, all the support. I think you guys are really having fun with working on your own development, working on your intuition, connecting with spirit. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of Spirit because a lot of you have emailed me, had messaged me about this little box and what's in it. And I think that's great because that's why I'm here. I'm not here for me. I'm here for Spirit. I'm here to help advocate for you. I'm here to help you understand your connection with Spirit. And we do have a winner. And actually, some of you that had talked to me privately and sent me what you thought was in the box didn't get it right the first time, but you got something that had previously been in the box. I had talked to Connie and she had asked if there was fabric in the box. Somebody else saw something handwritten in the box. And all those things were in here at one point, but not this time. And so our winner actually was Dina. She was the first one to answer with the right what was in the box. And so, and I think Connie is going to like this too, because this is what was in the box, guys. A feather. And like I said, quite a few of you had come back and you had the right answer the second time. And, when in this email that I received from Connie, she had said she'd watched the show live and fabric came to mind immediately. She went back and watched it again. And she was wondering, do people get different vibes when viewing? And in this email, she had got what was in the box correct. She also said she felt sage, which there is sage here in my office. There's been sage in that box. And so one thing, that I tell people when you're tuning into something, especially like this, because there's different things that have been in this box. It's just like kind of connecting with spirit, connecting in, peeling through the layers, right? So those of you that got it right the second or third time around, you're learning to peel through the layers. You saw, oh, I see something handwritten. I see fabric. And you're getting closer, closer to what's in there, peeling through those layers of an onion. So don't look at those as wrong answers. That's where we go wrong. You say, oh man, there's not fabric in there. There's not something handwritten. There's not a stone. I suck. My intuition's horrible. Wrong. Your intuition's great. What you were doing is you found the box. You connected into the energy of the box. You just cut the date off, right? Feel all the way through. So stop doubting yourselves because you all did it. You all connected. So not going to put anything in the box this week, but we will do that again. I got to dig through. I know I got some more things I can offer as prizes. And so we will do that. So stay tuned because that's why we're here. We're here to help you connect with spirit, to understand the spirit world, to advocate for yourself, to make that connection. Okay, so we're going to keep doing it. Today, I felt drawn to actually pull a postcard from my Postcards from Spirit box. These are by Colette Baron Reed. And today's postcard, I can't make this up because it really fits with the topic of why we're here. And it says, "You are loved." That's today's postcard. It says, "You are loved." And I'm going to read it to you. Dearest you, even though life seems now to be moving full steam ahead, it's a time to rest. Allow ideas to flow through you and take root in your heart before they reach your mind. Honor this process by becoming empty to allow for inspiration and the magic of dreaming. You might feel lazy or unproductive, but we know better. Just as sleep is a way to recharge before renewal, so are you in a time for dreaming. In this powerful process of co-creation, your soul merges with spirit in a profound way so you can receive your music directly from source and play your part in the symphony of life. You are being invited to bear witness to the great creation and tune in to what others can't hear. You have so many dreams to share with you in the sacred and the invisible. Don't worry, we will wake you when it's time to return with a new dream. No need to set an alarm clock. Loving you always. Right? And how many of us are worrying about time? We're worrying about what's going on. We're not taking time to rest. And then spirit makes us rest. Don't make spirit make you rest. Find that time to rest. Find that time to allow yourself to dream. Find that time to allow yourself to connect. Find that time to believe in yourself. I'm a mom, and I find so much time to believe in everybody else, to put effort into everything else. But it's important, right? It was important for me to find time to believe in myself. It was important for me to find time to advocate. We talked about this last week. Not allowing ourselves to be our true selves. Not allowing ourselves to wear a tank top because we think we have grandma arms, or not wanting to wear that swimsuit because somebody might not like the way we look in it. Not allowing ourselves, right? Even though my kiddo told me, "Mom, you shouldn't sing that song." Guess what? I sang it louder and I even danced. Because it's me. That's me. And that's my joy. So do not continue to hide your joy, because that's why Spirit gave it to you. It was there to share. Start sharing, people. All right. We got a few minutes left. We're going to pull a couple Zener cards. We're going to do 4. All right. 4 Zener cards. And if you need a refresher of what the cards are, squigglies, stars, circles, squares, and plus sign, crosses, whatever you want to call it. Doesn't matter to me. All right. Take a breath, everybody. If you got to write it down, write it down. I'm just going to show you the card, give you a second, and flip it over. All right? Card number 1. I almost feel like we need Jeopardy music for this. Do, 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 do. Right? And make it better. All right. Card number 1. Circle. Card number 1 is circle. Polka, you can dance if you want. I love it. All right. Card number 2. And, maybe you didn't get card number 1 right. Maybe you were picking up on card number 2. Maybe you're ahead of the game. Card number 2 is a cross. Card number 3. Awkward silence. Squiggly lines, or waves, whatever you want to call them. Last card. Is a star. Because you guys are rock stars. Find ways every day. There's little games you can play, different ways you can work on your intuition and build that trust with what you're feeling, with what you're getting. Tonight, you guys all know you can find me and Rob Thompson on The Universe. Hop on over. Today's guest is awesome. I saw somebody put in we might be doing a reading show tonight. I'm not really sure what we're doing tonight. One never can be sure what Rob and I have up our sleeves. So tune in, be as surprised as we are with where the conversation goes, how that develops, and make sure, as always, that you are hopping on to WLTK-DB, Let's Talk Radio, and finding those amazing shows, because everybody here really is here for you. They're here for spirit, and there's lots of great shows here on the station. So as always, I thank you guys for tuning in every week. I appreciate you all. I love you all. Next week, Monday and Tuesday, the station will be running as normal, but then we go into a station break. Thank you, Courtney. I appreciate you. Good morning, Lee. So Monday, Tuesday, you will be able to catch live shows. The rest of the week, if you've missed some, hop on. A lot of us have private channels. Hop on Podbean, wherever you download music. Look those up and catch up. And then we'll all see you nice and refreshed in 2 weeks, back here with Ellie for In the Mix. Have a great week, guys.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.
Thank you.